guys, my name is Brandon and welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find the latest album reviews, you can find our band interviews, and you can find live coverage of the concerts that we get. Just saw State Champs a few days ago. I will be posting a show thoughts slash show review in the next day or so definitely be on the lookout for that. Also posted 2 interviews, one with Angel Vivaldi, he's a solo guitar player, and as well as Before It's Too Late, which I posted on Wednesday, so definitely check both of those out. I'm also posting one on Friday. We try to keep them to Monday, Wednesday, Friday for interviews, so definitely be on the lookout for that for up-and-coming artists. If you're interested in that. Also, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure to hit that like button as well. Really does go a long way, and thank you guys for your support. We're almost at 400 subscribers, which is amazing, and I can't believe it. It's just, I'm so blessed, so thank you guys so much for the support. It really does mean a lot. So tonight we're going to be talking about Paramore's new record, After Laughter. So I've known this band for a long time, probably one of the first bands that got me into that alternative music, along with like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco. I'm trying to think who else. It was kind of Cartel. Definitely those sorts of bands definitely got me into this genre initially, and over the years obviously we've both matured, so it's cool to see that Paramore is still a band, that they're still making music, and you know, I've always been a fan of what they do, no matter if it's from All We Know Is Falling to, you know, their most recent record, their self-titled record. I've liked it all in between. It's just great stuff, and I'm so happy that they're still making music, like I've been mentioning. So I'm gonna go through each track, give you my thoughts on each one, and then I'm gonna give an overall rating on the record and what my thoughts are on it. So we'll get into the first track, which is Hard Times. This is the first single that they released off the record. Really, I will admit I wasn't into it at first, just because I was like, oh man, like, you know, those sort of things where you're getting older and you're like, man, you know, they don't sound like Paramore anymore. But I think over time and listening to this all the way through, I feel like it definitely fits well with what they're going with, as well as I really have come to enjoy it. I really have come to just love this track a lot. I think it's definitely super great. Haley's just got one of those iconic voices to me, like I've been mentioning, but definitely one of those voices that I don't ever forget, and when it comes on, obviously you know it's a Paramore track, so you know, maybe outside of a feature or something like that, but that's besides the point. She just has this just gravitation to just her and her voice, so definitely that alone just got me hooked on that track. Really like the intro with all the like sort of wild instruments. I could hear like xylophone, I could hear some like bongos. It was just really kind of cool, like islandy sort of summery vibes, which I appreciate. I really enjoy that. I also enjoyed the more electronic sort of elements of their album, and that's a common thread just throughout all of these tracks and just the album in general. I feel like it definitely has that sort of underlying like electronic parts to it, which I really enjoy. I feel like it's a love or hate sort of a thing for most people, but I've definitely grown to love it. I've definitely kind of been open-minded with this record. I know it's something different, especially with the 2 singles that they've released so far. I've definitely kind of assimilated to what they're going for, at least. So really enjoyed that. Also enjoyed the chorus a lot. I think it's catchy as hell. Probably one of the more catchier choruses on the record. Like I mentioned, I wasn't completely sold, but it just got this groove and just happy feelings to it, and just makes you want to move. It definitely has parts reminiscent to like 80s pop vibes to it. Definitely 80s pop vibes probably have a huge influence on this record. There's a lot of tracks that have that sort of 80s style vibe to it, but I feel like Zach and Taylor really kind of carry this track respectively. It just has a sort of groove to it, just with the way that Zach being back in the band just adds that sort of flavor to just how he is. I know he was, to me personally, sorely missed on the self-titled, so I'm just glad that he's kind of come back and done this. I hope it's not just for this album that he stays on, but who knows. But I'm really excited just to, you know, have you guys listen to these tracks. Instrumentally, again, I think it's really great, and I definitely think it's a great opener to the record. So we'll move into track number 2, which is Rose Colored Boy, another one of my favorite tracks. I feel like it's just a really great continuation of Hard Times, but definitely has those grooves to it as well. I think the bass has been really excellent throughout this whole record, but in particular in this track at the moment, really been enjoying that. I like the group vocals in the intro. I think it's a really cool little touch. Another really damn catchy chorus. I think they just have been known to do that, but just to kind of reiterate just what you already know about them, I feel like they just construct choruses very well, and they're just very thought out. It's very, you know, how it just gets you in that mode about like just vibing out. Like I was just like bouncing my head the entire time and just feeling the tracks. And this one is definitely one of the better ones. Always really enjoyed Zach's drumming, like I've been mentioning in the previous track. I just like how he just kind of embellishes on the track. It's not too crazy, but it just adds this sort of like flair that I felt like was missing on the last record. So, it's like I've been mentioning, it's good to have Zach back. You definitely hear the electronic elements shine a little bit more throughout in this track, I would say, than Hard Times, even though obviously they did some stuff, you know, like with more, I would say, more real instruments, like I said, xylophones and stuff like that, stuff that you can record. This one definitely has more of those like synthy sort of things that you can't get, I guess, organically. So I really enjoy that. It definitely has this funk vibes to it as well. A lot of these tracks do. Even Hard Times has that sort of funk vibe to it a little bit as well. And I don't need to tell you more about Haley's voice. I think she's just, if you've listened to any Paramore track, which I'm sure you have, because, you know, who hasn't listened to Paramore? She just has that just a eclecticness to her voice. So another really solid vocal track from her. So we'll move it into track number 3, which is Told You So, another great single that they released. Another one of my favorite tracks. I really like the bass in this. It's just super funky and just rhythmic-y, and I really enjoy that. I like that the track definitely starts off with Haley's voice. I think that that's a really cool kind of intro piece. I know it's done before, but I just want to reiterate that I like it. I like the lead guitar parts from Taylor as well. I think they're just absolutely killer. They add this little sort of flavor to the track, which I really enjoy. It just adds this overall, like, just, I felt like it would be bland if it wasn't, there was like no lead lines or anything of that nature. So in that regard, I really enjoy it. I definitely enjoy the additional layering in this track, whether it be through synths, just either like other instruments, like I've been mentioning, like xylophone, like bongos, stuff like that. I feel like that kind of adds that like additional sort of thing that's been missing in the track. And I feel like in just with that, I feel like the layering definitely adds and makes the track better. I felt like if you kind of stripped out those pieces, it wouldn't feel necessarily as good. I think it would still be a solid track, but I feel like a lot of those like a little like odd things that you wouldn't think make that much of a difference actually do. So really enjoy that. I also like the little fills that Zach adds in on drumming. It's just something that I've been missing, like I've been mentioning in the past 3 songs. It's just been something that just you can't replicate with somebody who's been doing like studio drums. I feel like it comes like naturally, and it has that sort of camaraderie with like the bandmates. So definitely enjoy that part of that, and another really solid track. So we'll move it into track number 4, which is Forgiveness. This track really, really, really reminds me of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. For some reason, I think it's just maybe like the bass line and just like the overall sound of it has that sort of just vibes to it. This one is a bit of a slower track, kind of taking it down a notch a little bit, but I definitely love the smoothness of this track. It feels very just cool in your ears. It's just something that you can vibe out with. I definitely could see myself just driving to this track, like at the beach, or like riding a bike or something like that at the beach. It just has those sort of summery vibes to it, just those cruise vibes. If I do say so myself. I also like the little ad-libby parts from Haley. I think she's just been really solid with that overall. Just as an artist, I feel like she's kind of just, I wouldn't even say like shifted in her thought. I just feel like that they kind of went in a different direction, and she definitely definitely went in that sort of direction, which I appreciate. So I like that she's always reinventing her vocals. Even though she's an extremely talented vocalist, I like how she's doing it in more inventive ways over the courses of the different albums. This one definitely has, again, those 80s style pop vibes to it, which I really enjoy. I feel like that's kind of a resurfacing sort of genre. I feel like a lot of bands kind of carry that sort of 80s pop vibe to them. Also enjoyed the vocal layering on this. I think it's definitely great, and I feel like it's especially good in the choruses. It just adds an overall like depth to it, and it's just cool to have like Haley's voice kind of do a two dance almost, where like you'll hear her sing like just the line, and then she'll have some more like parts in with the vocals that just kind of add to the whole track. So we'll move it into track number 5, which is Fake Happy. One of my favorite tracks off the record, outside of the singles, obviously. Really liking the vocals and the solo guitar intro, and then everything kind of kicks in after that. Just the synth slash production is really cool in the lead part into the verse. I think that that's really cool. It just adds this sort of break to it, which I really enjoy, and it's kind of refreshing in that regard. Um, Really like that the bass leads the track. I feel like you don't hear that too often, but I feel like they utilized it a lot in this record. There's definitely a lot of tracks that just are kind of more bass centric, but that's not a bad thing. So I definitely like that. The chorus is definitely more of that sort of straightforward, sort of pop rock chorus. It definitely has that sort of vibe where you know what you're gonna expect when you get to the chorus. That can either be a good or a bad thing, but I feel like it's a good thing. Considering that they've been a little bit more vibey, I like that this one kind of harkens back to their like older records in that regard. This keeping to the more pop rock sort of a thing. I like the bridge. I think it's especially cool with the group vocals when they came in. I feel like Haley definitely put a little bit more emotion into this track, especially in the last chorus. I feel like she definitely just took it up a notch a little bit. And I feel like in a lot of these tracks, while she is doing stuff that's different, I feel like she needs to have some of those parts where it kind of pulls in from like past generations of Haley. I feel like she wasn't putting a lot into it. You know what I mean? It just felt like I didn't feel like it didn't feel genuine, but it just didn't feel like she. I feel like she just is a powerhouse. If you listen to like a lot of the older stuff, like stuff off Riot, stuff off Brand New Eyes, it just definitely has that sort of punch to it, and I feel like maybe over the years she's getting a little bit more mellowed out, but I would definitely like those spurts of a little bit more punch. But we'll move into track number 6, which is 26. A nice little acoustic track in the middle album to kind of break up the track. And I also like the diversity as well. I feel like it kind of makes it a little bit more of a diverse record with, with an acoustic track, with some slower tracks, with some more like party sort of happy tracks. So I feel like there's a nice mix already so far. I've always really liked Haley's vocals, especially the more tender, sort of softer parts, especially in songs like Only Exceptions, Hate to See Your Heart Break, and the more recent records, and a lot of the sort of slower tracks on previous albums. I've always liked those sort of tenderer moments from her. I feel like they just hit a little bit more home for me, and I really enjoy that. I also feel like the strings were a nice touch in this track, kind of adds to the overall mood of the track in particular. And again, I've been liking the diversity. Not one track kind of sounds like the next one, while they do have kind of underlying themes together. I feel like they're not like overlapping. You're like, oh, well, I thought this song was that song, and that song was that song, but nonetheless, really great stuff. So we'll move into track number 7, which is Pool. I really like the cool kind of wind chimey sort of intro. I guess it's kind of wind chimey. And then also, I like how it kind of carries throughout the track and kind of is kind of the main focal point of the track, even though like at some points it kind of gets muddled out a little bit. I like the incorporation of that as well. This one definitely has this cool sort of groove to it. I like the additional synth in the chorus. I think that's a really solid look in that regard. I definitely feel like the bass and Zach's vocals were definitely the main focal point of this track, without a doubt. And I also feel like Haley's vocal kind of lacks that punch, like I've been mentioning, especially in this track. It just feels like I don't know. It just feels like there's something missing in this track that would get me to like it a little bit more. It's just lacking that sort of just overall oomph to it, that I feel like I know she's capable of doing. So, in that regard, it's a little bit of a disappointment, but otherwise, I think instrumentally, it's really solid. So we'll move into track number 8, which is Grudges, another one of my favorite tracks off the record. I like the cool sort of synthy intro. I definitely feel like the instrumentally, this track is one of my favorites as well. I just really like how it plays out. I like how what Haley's doing to with her vocals. I think it's something different. I like how she's playing with her vocal range a little bit more. I feel like in this record, she's definitely experimented more vocally, which I appreciate in that regard. But I also like, having the old stuff. I like a little new, little old. So, anyway, this one definitely has that more indie vibe to it. It almost has this sort of, I would say, Killers sort of vibe to it. And just kind of like that indie rock scene sort of a stuff, maybe like Block Party a little bit here and there. Definitely has more energy than the previous couple tracks. I like how they're kind of picking it up. It's almost like a roller coaster. It has those sort of like softer, slower parts where you're at the dip, and then we're picking it back up with some more energetic tracks. Definitely like how Zach goes in on this track. I would definitely say that Zach is kind of just went in on this track without a doubt. His fills have this sort of fluidity to them, which I really enjoy. And I just like how this one has just a little bit more energy to it and just went in a little bit more. So we'll go to track number 9, which is Caught in the Middle. I really like the gritty guitar mix with the bass and the drums. I feel like that's kind of missing throughout that, or just throughout this record in general. It feels like a little bit more softer, so I like that a little bit of a grit to it. This one definitely has a groove to it, like I've been mentioning. It has those sort of summer vibes that you would expect from an album like this, and just from Paramore in general. I like the bass solo with Haley's vocals, and then with Zach's drumming. I think it's kind of like a cool little combo mix there going on. And that's what I liked about Caught in the Middle. So we'll move it on to track number 10, which is Idol Worship, another one of my favorite tracks. Really liking the synth drum combo, as I previously mentioned in like a lot of these, but I definitely like the combo in the intro a lot. It has this cool sort of distorted effect to it, which I appreciate. I also like Haley's vocals in this track. I like that she kind of put a little bit more punch to it. She has some like almost sort of strainy parts to it where she puts a little bit more like gusto into it, which I was, like I've been mentioning, it's just been something that I've been missing. So it's cool to hear that, and cool to hear her kind of get back to her true form, as I would say. This one definitely has this sort of catchy vibe to it as well. I feel like the electronic elements add this sort of fullness to this track as well. I also think that La 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 part is a little bit odd, but I think it's cool in that regard. I think you'll just have to give it a listen to understand what I mean. It just has this sort of, I don't know, it just has this sort of oddness to it, but it's cool. So really enjoy that. I also enjoy the addition of bongos in this track. I feel like it kind of adds that sort of island flair to it, summer flair to it, as some would say. So I definitely say that this is another strong song from them. So we'll move it into track number 11, which is No Friend. I feel like it feels like a continuation of Idol Worship. In that regard, just sonically, it feels very much in the same vein as that one. I feel like the vocals are a little bit low, but I understand it's kind of more of an artsy sort of track. And I think it's kind of like a cool little interlude piece. It doesn't really offer anything extra to Idol Worship. It just kind of feels like a continuation of that. Almost like I mentioned, almost like an interlude. So we'll move it into track number 12, which is Tell Me How. Really liking the addition of piano in this track. I feel like it was kind of lacking throughout this record, but I know that's not like a key essential piece to them. But I do like that they added it in. I also like Haley's vocals a lot. I've always had a special place for her vocals in my heart. She just, is one of those vocalists that I'll never forget. She definitely went really diverse with this album and this track in particular. Really like how in this track instrumentally sounds. I like that they added piano to what's going on in the track. I also like that all the other instruments like drums, guitars, and bass kind of don't overcrowd what's already kind of really nice about this track. The piano, I feel like, is the main sort of focal point, and I really enjoy that. Even though this is a bit of a softer song, I definitely have been liking the diversity throughout the record, whether it be like pop rock, indie rock, almost sort of like funky sort of parts, and like that 80s sort of pop vibes to it. It's really diverse. I think it's a decent song to close out the album with, without a doubt. So I'm gonna get into the pros and cons of this record. I felt like some songs felt a little bit flat. Songs like No Friend. I'm trying to think what other songs. 26 wasn't too bad actually. It just felt like No Friend felt like kind of like a throw in almost. But overall, I like that they did something different. I know not everybody's gonna like this record. It's just something that's, oh, I would say a little bit different, especially I think the jump from, um, if you listen to Brand New Eyes and then you jump to this record, that's just completely different. But if you do from the self-titled to this record, I feel like it's not too much of a jump. I feel like they definitely went more indie with the whole record in general, but I don't feel like it's too far off to the point where you'll be like, is this really Paramore or something like that? I still think it has those key essentials that do make Paramore, obviously Haley Williams, but just like instrumentally, it just feels very much like a Paramore record. If you strip away some of the electronic parts, it feels very much like Paramore's last record. So I wouldn't say it is that much different. I just feel like they added a little bit more electronic flair to it and just experimented a little bit more genre-wise. So I always appreciate when artists kind of break out of a traditional norm. So in that regard, I think this is a solid record. If they continue down this sort of genre path, I really can see myself enjoying them as well. While, you know, I am an old fan, I do like the progression. I like the newness of this record. Maybe it might take me a few times to listen over and really kind of enjoy it a lot more, but I feel like a lot of these tracks were great. I think about half of these tracks I liked, so, or loved. So that's really solid in that regard. So, my overall rating for Paramore's After Laughter, I'm going to be giving it an 8.8 out of 10. I think it's definitely one to check out, first of all. I think you should listen to each track and really kind of come in with an open mind. It's not too far off from the self-titled like I mentioned previously, but if you are an old fan like myself, it might be a little bit hard for you to get into it. But I still suggest listening to it. I think it's a really solid record. I think they definitely put a lot of time into it, and I think it's definitely worth a listen. So let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on the singles. Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you think they changed too much? What do you think about the record? It definitely is coming out this Friday, so if you want to check that out, I would highly implore you to pick it up. I will definitely be snagging this one. I think again, it's a different genre change, but I think it's really solid work from them nonetheless. So if you enjoy what we do, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure to hit that like button as well. And if you enjoy us a lot, if you like me, pick up some merch at our merch store. That would be amazing and would be greatly appreciated, guys. So my name is Brandon, and we hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.